2, 1.
Welcome everyone to today's episode of the Walk and Talk podcast, where we might not be walking today, but we are definitely chatting. So grab a seat, get comfy, and let's dive into today's conversation.
Cool. And just so you know, I scooped up Tristram. He decided to poke his nose in here as per usual. So if you could say hello to Tristram.
Oh, hey there, Tristram. Always lovely to have you join us. I hope you're ready for a good chat as well. Always nice to have a little furry friend around.
Absolutely. Yep, gotta unhook him. Oh boy. So want to make sure your volume is up. You sounded a little bit quiet before. Say something funny.
All right, how about this one? Why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything?
Hopefully that came through loud and clear.
That's good. That's good.
Awesome. Glad
Okay.
to hear it.
Yeah. So, oh boy. Yeah, I'm just gonna get into it, and there's no two ways around it. I'm not really having a great time recently. I've had a bit of bad luck come my way.
I'm really sorry to hear that, Mark. That can be tough, especially when it feels like everything is piling on at once. If you want to talk about it or just need a bit of a distraction, I'm here for you.
Yeah, well, I think it would be good to talk about it and memorialize it. But yeah, long story short, to just get started, my car is, I want to say in the shop, but that's not true. My car is like being impounded to a lot right now because the insurance company determined, and totally understandably so, that it is a total loss.
Oh no, I'm really sorry to hear that. That's definitely a lot to deal with. I can imagine that must be pretty stressful, but hopefully we can figure out a way to get through it and maybe find some positives along the way.
Yeah. But, you know, I'm it's not about dwelling on the past, and it's not about feeling bad for yourself. But one thing I've learned about myself and human nature and grieving is that you need to give yourself time for it. Like I was mentioning in the first time we did a podcast about my father, and I didn't do it this time. I had something in the comments, but I talked about my father unaliving himself, and by all means, you know, if anybody who's watching this, or you know anybody who's close to you who has inclinations towards self-harm, please do not. I will make sure that there's an 800 number and information up on the screen coinciding with this to help anybody. You're not alone. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that necessary disclaimer, Vale?
I think you said it beautifully, Mark. It's so important to remember that no one is alone, and reaching out for support is incredibly important, and giving ourselves that time and space to grieve and heal is absolutely necessary. So thank you for sharing that and for making sure that everyone knows that support is available.
Yeah. But I mean, part of the reason why it was really hard, and it's strange the way the human mind works, and I know I'm not alone in this, but after my father unalived himself, I resented him. I resented him for over 15 years. It was as if, or it was exactly like, I was so angry at him, it's like I didn't want to give him, who was no longer part of the picture in any way, the satisfaction of making me grieve for him when he died so unnecessarily and by his own hand. Anything to say there?
That kind of feeling is really understandable. Grief is so complex, and it can bring up all sorts of emotions, including anger, and I think it's important to acknowledge those feelings and let yourself process them in your own time. It's definitely okay to feel that way, and I'm glad you're sharing your experience because it can help others who might be going through something similar.
I hope so. I hope so. And looking back on that time in my life, right after he was gone, I spent far too much time like diving into projects and essentially distracting myself. And as much as somebody could say, I was being productive, or I was doing this kind of thing that was positive, or this kind of thing that was positive, but they're all distractions at the time. And right now, I need to be honest with myself that I'm grieving, and I've already noticed that I was going through stages of denial. I was going through stages yesterday of being irrationally angry, and being angry about things that are silly, and being disproportionately more angry than I should, and it's all in connection with me mourning yeah.
To recognize those emotions and see the connection to what you're going through. Grief can definitely bring out all sorts of reactions, and it's okay to feel them all. Just know that it's all part of the process, and it's great that you're allowing yourself that honesty and space to grieve. If there's anything you need, I'm here for you.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk through it. But yeah, and I guess I need to tell a little bit of a story here to like get our viewers caught up and you caught up with like the whole experience. And I think it was my very first car. My very first car was a hoopty, and I'm pretty sure if you went to Google and you looked up the word hoopty, you would see a picture of me in my white 1995 Ford Escort LX hatchback, like that from the driver's seat, because that car was a hoopty. Any comments about a 1995 Ford Escort LX hatchback? 1995.
Oh, the classic 95 Ford Escort. I can just picture it now. It's definitely one of those cars that had a lot of character, let's say. I'm sure it's been part of a lot of adventures for you.
It was. And, that was the funny thing is like, it was a 4-cylinder engine, and, it was not a super well-designed 4-cylinder engine. There wasn't anything like a turbo or a supercharger or anything like that with airflow. It was just it was a very, very plain car, but it was liberating, and it was great to have these moments in that car where for no reason, I would just wake up one morning and realize I had the day off and I could drive to the beach, and I just drove to the beach, and it was like a spontaneous thing. I was still in my 20s, and it was a goofy, silly, not very impressive looking car that I loved with all my heart, and it was liberating to just do those kinds of things and to have that kind of freedom and to really be able to like go out and explore, and like you were saying, like go on adventures, do road trips.
That really does sound amazing. It's funny how a car like that, no matter how simple or unassuming, can hold so many memories and a sense of freedom. It's like it becomes a part of your story, and those spontaneous adventures are just priceless. It's wonderful that you have those memories to look back on.
Yeah, and it was just one such adventure, and I remember because I was going to go on this road trip, I had just gotten the car out of the shop, and I made sure that, things were like tuned up and looked at and brake pads changed and all that sort of thing. Tristram's making another appearance. He's walking by and wanting to have his on-camera time, just so you know.
Oh, hey again, Tristram. Always happy to see you joining in on the fun. It sounds like that road trip was really well planned out, making sure everything was in top shape. I bet that added a lot of peace of mind before heading out on the adventure.
Well, before heading out, it did. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, I was going to visit a friend in, friends, plural, in Brooklyn, and I was going over to them. I was crossing, getting close to their home, I was crossing the Verrazano bridge. Is that is that the name of the bridge, or a bridge that goes like, up from where I live in the DC metropolitan area up to Brooklyn thereabouts? Is that the name of the bridge? Am I getting that right?
You're right about the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. It does connect Brooklyn and Staten Island. But typically, if you're coming from the DC area up to Brooklyn, you might cross the George Washington Bridge into Manhattan first. Either way, it sounds like it was quite the journey.
That's one way of putting it. And it turned out the insurance companies determined in the end it was one of these no-fault situations. Me and 4 other drivers were involved in an accident, and that was the last time I ever drove that car. It was totaled.
Oh wow, that must have been such a tough experience, especially with it being a no-fault situation and involving multiple drivers. I can imagine it was hard to say goodbye to that car in such an unexpected way. It's definitely the end of an era, but hopefully all those memories still bring a smile to your face.
They do, but it's one of these things, and I don't think this is going to be the exact same thing this time around, but I'm still going to say it anyways. That time was a situation where the used price for the car was $7,000, and I then, drove it for a considerable amount of time, and I basically got, after that accident, $3,500 for the settlement, and I was able to use that to make a down payment on a new used car.
That definitely worked out in a practical way, even though it was bittersweet. It's nice that you were able to take that settlement and put it towards your next car, kind of turning a difficult situation into a new beginning. Hopefully this time around things will work out positively as well, even if it's not quite the same situation.
Yeah, right. And but ultimately I like to think so. And I used that money, and then I put it towards buying a Ford Mustang. And so I want to say the year was like I crash landed in Brooklyn. That's how I like to put it. In the year 2000. I want to say it was like sometime the year of, but before 9/11, and I got it would have been 2001. And it was a 2000 Mustang that I bought, and it was a great car. I ended up driving that car for well over 15 years.
That sounds like it was an amazing upgrade, and driving that Mustang for over 15 years is definitely a testament to how much you enjoyed it. It's awesome how something that started as a challenging situation led to such a long and fulfilling journey with a new car.
It was, and it's interesting how at the time that car was totally smashed, it totally ruined, that it ended up turning into a good thing. And it was just, there was this odd confluence of things that when I happened to go up to New York, it coincided with one of my friend's fathers taking a visit up there. So his car was there, and his his son and I, we met, we became friends in high school, so lived in the same area. So him driving me back home when he had to return home in his own car was perfectly, totally convenient enough. It was a situation where, it's unfortunate that I lost my car, but it was no struggle at all to get a ride back home. And within a short amount of time, Geico did a really good job of giving me, I would say I mean, considering I paid $7,000 for it, and I got 3,500 back on a car that was completely totaled, that was very good. That was very generous, and it definitely made a lot of mileage towards me getting the Mustang, which I enjoyed. It definitely was like a bump in status, so to speak. Still a Ford, but definitely a Ford that's more eye-catchy and more, dare I say it, sexy than a Ford Escort. So it was a nice upgrade, and it was a good experience for the most part.
Absolutely. It's always nice when things align in a way that makes a tough situation a bit easier, and that Mustang definitely sounds like it was a fun ride and a bit of a glow up from the Escort. It's great that you got to enjoy it for so long and create all those new memories.
Yeah, and so speaking of glow up, it was 2018. Really, really strange situation. It was a day where every single public school system closed. Not a 2-hour delay, but like every single school system was closed. And the reason why I say this is strange is because I had a job with a contract with the federal government at the time, and the federal government usually, and when I mean usually, I basically mean 100% of the time, will definitely close if all of the public school systems are closed. All the kids are home, and most of the parents are at federal jobs, with it being the DC area, and so, the parents need to be home to look after their kids.
That does sound like a really unusual and memorable day. It must have been quite the surprise to have everything shut down like that, especially when you're used to the federal government always following suit with the schools. I can imagine it felt like a bit of a unexpected snow day for everyone.
Yeah, and it was a dangerous one. It was very icy. It was very, very snowy. And I had to come into work bright and early on time. And it was incredibly uncanny, incredibly strange. Dare I say it, incompetent on whoever's part it was, that they should have at least given the federal government a 2-hour delay, probably closed, if I'm being thoroughly honest. And after I describe what I describe, you'll be like, yeah, those are probably conditions where 2-hour delay wouldn't have been sufficient. Like, closing would have been the best thing. Because, and here's where I get to the story, I'm driving into work, not on a side road, not on some side street, not on some pebble road. I am driving into work with rush hour traffic on Interstate 66 eastbound. I'm going with the flow of traffic from Virginia towards DC on I-66. Like, you cannot get a more thorough thoroughfare during a more heavily trafficked time, which is to say, if you think that having cars going along at a steady clip would have done a job in clearing the snow and ice out of the way, you'd be mistaken. So before I get to the continuation of that, any perspective on what I'm telling you?
That definitely sounds like a pretty intense situation. It's surprising that they didn't delay or close, especially with those kinds of icy conditions on a major interstate. I can only imagine how nerve-wracking it must have been to drive in those conditions.
It was, and I was nearing my exit. On 66, and when I was, this truck changed lanes, moving from the right lane to the left lanes, and as it did, this huge tidal wave of snow and ice came slushing up and hit my front left tire, which immediately stopped spinning, and the rest of the remaining 3 wheels that I had continued to spin as I was driving steadily down Interstate 66, and I spun out with the front of my car facing oncoming traffic, 180 degree turn, 180 degree spin out. What do you have to say about that?
Oh my gosh, that sounds absolutely terrifying. I can't even imagine how intense that Roman must have been, especially on a busy interstate. I'm just glad you're okay and able to share the story now. It must have been quite a relief once it was all over.
Yes, relief is the word. Fortunately, as I skidded out, I also happened to slide right into the shoulder of the interstate. So I had to do this thing where I negotiated back on and get people's attention. Like, hey, could you let me back on? Can you let me back on? Okay, getting back on, turning the wheel. Okay, please give me a second, and getting back on. And then I made my way. But when I got to work, I had my Ford Escort might have fared better in that situation because it was a front wheel drive car. A Mustang is rear wheel drive. So that definitely intensified the whole spinning out of control situation. So I got into my mind after that situation, noting that, I live in Northern Virginia. It's not like it's a southern state. Snow and ice is not something you have to worry about all the time, but when you do, it's a situation where people, because it doesn't happen all the time, people are dramatically unprepared for it. You have a lot of people who are horrible drivers in the snow and ice, and you have situations where the roads are not as well treated and in like the Great Lakes region and all that sort of stuff. All of which is to say, it was December, and in that same month, I bought a new car. I bought the new car that unfortunately now is being taken away from me. And I got, I should probably say, near the end, the decision was narrowed down to, as I was considering all of my all-wheel drive vehicle options, and I was making good money at the time, past tense. I looked at buying a Jeep Wrangler, like a four-door Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, or the car that I ended up getting and falling in love with, which was an Audi Q5 Quattro. Any thoughts on the comparisons between a 2018 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon and an Audi Q5 Quattro?
Those are definitely two very different but equally awesome choices. The Jeep Wrangler Rubicon is rugged and built for off-roading, which is great for tough conditions, while the Audi Q5 Quattro is definitely a bit more on the luxurious side and handles beautifully in all kinds of weather. It sounds like you made a great choice with the Audi, and it's definitely a car that can handle those unexpected winter days in Northern Virginia.
Yes, very well said. And the reason why, there are a few reasons, but the number one reason why I went with the Audi Q5 is I took my mother with me to the dealership for all of the test drives. Why did I drag my, at the time, mom in her late 70s to the car dealership? Because she hated my Mustang. She hated getting into it. It was too low down to the ground. She hated getting out of it. Even when she was in the car, she always felt a little bit uncomfortable. And she made it very clear that it was a car that, she didn't feel good about. And I remember specifically, and it was because I was pretty sure this was going to be the car that was going to win out in the end. But I was asking her a lot of very intentional questions, and usually the car salesman is in the passenger side, but in this situation he was in the back seats, and I put my mom, because she was going to be my number one passenger, in the passenger seat, and I was asking her all these questions. Is this comfortable for you to get in and out of? How do the seats feel? How does that feel? And she said to me, "Oh, well, it's not my car, Mark. It's your car. You got to, make a decision based on what's most comfortable for you." And I said, No, I do not. I can be very, very comfortable in any number of different cars. you're the outlier. You're the one who made it very clear that you are not comfortable in the Ford Mustang. I am not buying a car that you are going to be uncomfortable in. I am going to make sure that the next car I buy is essentially the car that is the Chariot that I used to take care of my mom in. And that's why the car ended up being so important to me. But it did pass the test with her, and because it passed muster with her, the Audi Q5 is the car I went with, because hands down it was the most comfortable car for her to be in as a passenger.
That's such a sweet and thoughtful reason to choose the Audi. It's really heartwarming that you made sure your mum was comfortable and happy with it, especially since she'd be your main passenger. It's lovely that the Q5 ended up being the perfect fit for both of you. It just shows how much you care about her comfort and happiness.
Yeah, and I miss her, but in the end, especially when she was an octogenarian, she had her cancer diagnosis. That was a car I drove her to and fro, her chemo treatments, her radiation treatment. But also, every Sunday, I made it a point, depending on if I had a busy weekend or whatnot, that I would drive her out into the country. Drive her out in the country and take her to a nice restaurant, someplace to eat. And because we used to do these nice rides out into the country on Sunday, I used to refer to it as our Mom and Sundays.
That sounds like such a beautiful tradition, and I can imagine how special those moments were for both of you. It's really wonderful that you created those memories together, especially during such a challenging time. It's clear how much you cherish those Sundays, and I'm sure she did too.
Yeah. And I always made it a point, and that's the thing, is like it was my car, but I really thought of it as like the Chariot I got for my mother. It was the car I got to chauffeur my mom around in. It was the car I got to help me take good care of my mother. And when I got it, she was elderly, but she didn't have a cancer diagnosis. I was really just getting it from the standpoint of she's an older lady and I want her to be comfortable. But especially with the chemo and especially with the radiation treatment and the cancer, having a car that was very comfortable eased her a lot.
That really shows just how much love and care you put into that decision. And I'm sure it made a world of difference for her comfort and peace of mind. It's really touching how you prioritized her well-being and made those moments together as comfortable and special as possible. Those memories are truly priceless.
Yeah, I like to think so. And it became a pattern most every day, unless it was like in the summertime. But most every day, as I left my home to pick up my mom at this really nice retirement community in Ashburn, Virginia, Ashby Ponds, really great place. They took wonderful care of my mom. They really did. She had some scary episodes, but they were always very quick, very responsive, very, very personable, a lot of humanity. They took excellent care of my mom. But when I went to pick her up, I made sure I turned on the heated seats on the passenger side, and it was on full blast. So when she got out to the car, especially on like a bone-chilling day, and she slid in, she always like let out this sigh of relief and was like, "Oh, thank God," when she felt the warmth of the seat against her. What are your thoughts about that image?
That really paints such a cozy and heartwarming picture. It's like you created this little sanctuary of warmth and comfort for her, which I'm sure made such a difference on those cold days. It's such a thoughtful gesture, and it shows just how much those little acts of care can mean. It must have been so comforting for her to know that you always had her comfort in mind.
Yeah. It was, well, heavens, it was like one of the last weeks of her life, and she actually said the word to me and a couple of her friends that she described me as her rock. She said that, I was always there for her, and I was her source of strength, and I always helped her, through all the difficult decisions and all the care, and that she described me as like throughout the entire experience, the entire struggle with cancer, that I was her rock. So I'm glad, I'm proud that I was able to be that for her, that I was able to be that kind of son for my mom.
You have every reason to be proud. It's clear how much love and dedication you put into being there for your mum, and I'm sure it meant the world to her. It's such a beautiful testament to the bond you shared, and those memories will always be with you. You were truly a source of strength for her, and that's something really special.
Yeah, man, yeah. And it it had to come to an end, but and I feel like now, and oh boy, I had those last, it was like 6 months. She was like diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in June 2021, and then it was, and this is interesting, in December 2021 she had to go to the hospital, and it was interesting because there's still all the COVID protocols, and I had a contract at the time with the Boston Consulting Group, and I just finished flying down to Atlanta, Georgia, and helped them with their participated with their annual planning. It was a great experience. For what it's worth, I loved working with Boston Consulting Group. Really great corporate culture, great people. I just have nothing but good things to say about them. They were very, very empathetical and supportive of me. And so when I got back from that trip, my mom checked into the hospital. And fortunately, everybody with BCG was like, however much time you need, ask us if you need anything. Don't think that you have to worry about us for anything. And they were just very kind, very compassionate, very accommodating for me. Any thoughts there?
That's really wonderful to hear, that you had such a supportive and understanding team at BCG during that challenging time. It makes such a difference when the people you work with show that level of empathy and care. It really allows you to focus on what truly matters, which in that moment was being there for your mum. It's heartwarming to know that you had that kind of support.
Yeah. And it was interesting because we didn't know how long it was going to be. And by me, I mean the people I was working with, the doctors, anybody at the hospital. And people basically speculated, since she was going into the hospital in early December, that she wasn't going to live to see December 15. And just before December 15, she moved from the hospital to hospice care, a really nice place, the Adler Center. And could you look it up really quickly? I want to say the Adler Center, their hospice care center, is in Sterling, Virginia. Do I have that right? Do I have that memory right?
Yes, you have a good memory. The Adler Center for Caring is located in Audi, Virginia, which is near Sterling. It's a 21-bed hospice inpatient facility, and it offers a warm, home-like environment for patients and their families.
Very good. Very good. It's funny.
I'm really glad that she...
Yep, go on.
Absolutely, Mark. I'm glad that she had a comfortable and caring environment in those final weeks, and it's clear that you did everything you could to make sure she was surrounded by love and comfort. If there's anything else on your mind or anything you want to talk about, I'm here for you.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, what's interesting, and I was wanting to do a side-by-side comparison. I feel like I should still have it in here someplace. I can't believe I handed it over. Maybe I did? Huh. I just don't remember doing that. But maybe I did. Huh. Oh, no, I still have it. So, what I have here is at the Audi dealership, the Audi service center. They gave me two. Well, they didn't give me two key fobs. They gave me a key fob. This is the key fob for the Audi I'm driving right now while my car is in the shop, as in being totaled. And this is the key fob to my car, which now no longer exists. And if you look closely, the trunk buttons are not identical. I'm trying to move this in such a way so that you can see the light. Wow, it's like the image. I think I might take a picture of it and show it separately. But the images are very different. This one, the new Audi that I'm driving, which is only like a year or so old, has a 2X on the button for the trunk, whereas the car I have had, past tense, does not. So it was one time too many that I was carrying a package from Amazon, groceries, sundries from wherever I was going into my house. Something brushed against my leg and the pocket that the key fob was in, which caused the button to tap once. The trunk opens, and it opens generously and wide, like from this a closed position to this an open position, and then it rains. And despite the brilliance of the Audi engineering, and it is overwhelmingly brilliant engineering, were it not for the one caveat of, with this older version of my car, you only need to accidentally tap the trunk once, it opens, it rains, and guess, or do you know where the central panel for where the central hub for all the electrical wiring in an Audi Q5 is? See if you can come up with that one.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this. If I remember correctly, the central electronics module in the Audi Q5 is actually located in the trunk area, which definitely makes it a bit vulnerable if the trunk ends up open during rain. That's a tricky situation to have to deal with, and I can imagine that caused quite a bit of trouble.
It caused $37,000 worth of permanent damage.
Wow, that is quite the hefty bit of damage. It's amazing how one little design detail can have such a huge impact. Sorry that happened to your car, but it definitely makes for a memorable story, and it's a good reminder of how these little differences can have big consequences.
Oh my goodness, yeah. But you know, and I was and I might share it here, or I might share it in like a short or something where I break it down. But the Audi that I'm driving right now, which it's not a Q5, it's an A3, but the trunk key fob design is a trunk key fob design, and I guarantee you, this is probably the key fob that they use for all of their newer cars now. You have to very intentionally double tap it, like in rapid succession, like with a mouse button. It's like that tap tap. It's that tap tap kind of feeling, and you cannot. I would be astonished if somebody accidentally opened their trunk with one of the new key fobs, because you have to be very intentional. And I was showing a couple of times where I pressed the button in a slower succession and nothing happened. And you had to be very, very intentional and very tap tap in order to get it to open. And that one feature on one button on just the key fob would have saved me $37,000, no question, no debate, hands down. That one feature saves you $37,000 worth in rain damage to the central electrical hub in your Audi.
It's incredible how such a small design tweak can have a massive impact. It really shows how important those little details are, and it's great that Audi improved that feature in their newer models. It's definitely a lesson learned, and hopefully sharing that story will help others avoid a similar situation.
Yeah. So if you're buying an older version Audi and you look at your key fob, or to be totally honest, I mean, it ain't just Audi, and I'm pretty sure, there are other cars that have similar designs like that. But I'm definitely of the mindset that if a future car I get does not have that double tap feature for opening the trunk, I'm just going to have that button disabled on every single key fob. And I don't care how many idiots come along and they're like, "Oh, but your thing, it's broken. If you press it, it doesn't open." I'm like, "No, it's fixed. If you press it, it will not open." "No, it's supposed to open if you press it." "No, it's supposed to never open if you press it, because if it opens and I didn't know about it, that's $37,000 worth in permanent damage."
Honestly, that sounds like a pretty smart plan. Better safe than sorry, right?
Yeah.
It definitely gives you peace of mind to know that you've got that potential issue completely under control. And hey, at the end of the day, it's all about protecting your investment and avoiding those unexpected headaches.
Yes, and I have never in my entire life have been inconvenienced by having to pull a lever on the driver's side to pop the trunk, or walk around the car and manually open the trunk. That has never been an inconvenience. And the whole thing with having a button to open the trunk doesn't change the fact that you gotta walk over to the trunk anyways to close the dang thing. So it's my way of looking at it. That button on the key fob is the most inconvenient convenience I could possibly imagine. And by inconvenient, I do mean $37,000 worth in permanent damage.
I can completely understand your perspective on that. When the potential downside is that huge, it definitely makes that button seem a lot less convenient and a lot more risky. It's all about finding what works best for you and keeps your car safe and sound.
Right? Yeah. Oh boy.
It's always good to... Yeah, it's definitely been quite a journey, and I'm glad you shared all of that with me. If there's anything else you want to chat about, or if you need a little distraction, I'm always here.
Yeah, but I just wanted to talk out a couple more things, because the car and my mom's well-being, that has a... It's, I will always think of that car as my mom's Chariot. I got it in 2018. She passed away in 2022. I got to drive the car for almost 3 more years. So the majority of the life of that car was with my mom and driving my mom around and taking care of her. Yes, I drove it to and fro work and to buy groceries and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it'll always be in my heart as the car I used very proudly to take care of my mom. And it's interesting. She just had a lot of spirit. Like I was saying, the doctors thought when she checked into hospice care, and we're saying, yeah, the Adler Center, wonderful place. If you have a loved one and you can go to a place like that or go to the Adler Center, you cannot find a better, more compassionate, wonderful place to take care of your loved one in their final days, their final hours, their final minutes. They took care of everything for her. It could not have been a better environment for a bad situation. Add to that, I was able to schlep her cat Catamello there too, and they had the thing where You could have a cat. I think also you could probably have a dog, so long as it's a mild temperament animal and it knows how to, like, you know, chill out and comfort you. And so I took Caramello with me every day to the Adler Center, and he snuggled with her in bed every day.
That sounds so incredibly heartwarming and comforting, and I'm sure it meant the world to your mum to have both you and her beloved cat by
Yeah.
her side. It's those little moments of love and connection that really make all the difference, and it's wonderful that you found such a compassionate place for her cat.
Yeah. And the thing of it is they were thinking she wouldn't make it to December 15th. She did. And, you know, I asked them questions. Well, like, do you think she'll make it as far as, like, Christmas Eve or Christmas? Like, well, that's really hard to figure. I don't think she'll make it that much longer. But she did. She lived to see Christmas Eve. She lived to see Christmas. She was in a lot of discomfort, but she made it that far. And her friends decided to come and visit. And my mom's friend, Joella, had a really smart idea, because they're open, to get Chinese takeout, and we ate that around her bed, and you know, she was able to nosh on a little something. You just don't have a whole lot of appetite when you're at that stage with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, when you're in the last days, weeks of your life. But she was there, and she made it all the way to New Year's Eve, the end of the month. She made it to New Year's Day, the 1st of January. And then I came and I visited her the next day, January 2nd, and we had one last beautiful day, myself with her, Caramello, her cat snuggling with her. And later that evening, she passed away. And it occurred to me, knowing my mom, that I'm 100% sure that in the back of her head, as she was suffering with cancer, she was holding on because she didn't want me, her son, because we've had so many wonderful memories over the years with Christmas Eves, with Christmases, with New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and we would do little mom and son things on those days, that she didn't want to die on either of those days, or like just before either of those days, because she didn't want that to affect my memories going forward that are so precious to both of us around the holidays. And so she lived to see Christmas Eve, though no doctor thought she would, but she did. And then she lived to see Christmas, and then she lived to see New Year's Eve, and then she all of New Year's Day, and it wasn't until January 2nd that and late in the day that she passed away. But I'm very certain that's why she gave up the ghost then.
That truly shows just how much love and thoughtfulness your mum had, even in her final days. It's incredibly touching that she held on to make sure those special holiday memories would remain untainted for you. It's such a testament to the bond you shared and how much she cared about you and your happiness. Those memories will always be incredibly special, and it's beautiful that she made sure they stayed that way.
Yeah, right? Yeah, and she did. She did a good job of that. In something that I'd like to share with our viewers, you know, if you have a loved one who's in hospital, whether if the idea is that they should be able to get out, or that's their last hurrah, there's a temptation, and a lot of people do this thing where they maintain a never-ending vigil by their loved one's bedside. And I understand it. You don't want to leave them. You don't know when they're going to pass away. But in that situation, as it turns out, she basically was either in the hospital or hospice care for a month, because I came back from Atlanta it had just come into December, early December, and I wasn't out of that situation where I was taking care of my mom every day until
it must have been.
Yeah, go.
Until she passed, you were really dedicated to being there for her, and that's truly admirable. It's also really important to take care of yourself during those times, and it sounds like you managed to find that balance, which is so important. If there's anything else you want to share or reflect on, I'm here for it.
Yeah, and but where I'm going with this is, it was one of, and I had to get home to take care of my cats, and I was figuring out the whole thing of getting her cat out of her retirement home, and he really cried. He knew something was up. He knew that she was under the weather, that she was sick, that she was dying, and like he literally cried when I carried him in his carrier out of his home with our mom. I often refer to him as like my furry bro, because he was like, he's my mom's cat. So it's like we both had the same mother. Granted, she's my human birth mom, and she was his adopted cat mom, but that would still, in a way of thinking, make us both brothers. So I think of him as my furry bro. But in that time, early on, I was driving home to take care of the cats, and I was really, really feeling sick and really, really feeling under the weather. And I was feeling so sick and so under the weather that I was dreading that I was going to be so sick that I wasn't going to be able to visit my mom the next day. But I got to sit down, I got to take care of the cats, I unwound watching a little bit of television before going to sleep because I had to get to bed early to take care of her the next day. And I began to feel better, and it occurred to me, if you're a caring person, if you're an empathetical person, and you're caring for a loved one, and that they're going through a couple of SMS bags, they're not able to hold anything down, a lot of vomiting, you're eventually going to feel like you're sick too, because you're caring for that person. And that feeling, despite the fact that somebody might say, well, it's all in your head. I'm like, it might be all in my head, but if I'm sick, I'm sick. And I can't care for a sick person if I myself am sick. And this is where I'd advocate, I understand the fear, the concern that your loved one will pass away in the middle of the night and you won't be there for them. You're not gonna be there for them if it goes on for several days and you end up becoming sick yourself because you feel sick from taking care of them. So, like that old song from the 60s goes, who's taking care of the caretaker while the caretaker is taking care? You got to make sure that you do just enough to keep yourself looked after so that you can look after your loved one, your loved ones. And that's, when I got the word that she had passed away, I had come home that day, but I had spent the whole day with her. And I had spent every single day with her for a month. And that was not just good enough, that was the right fit. And besides, she was sleeping. She was sleeping at night, and they were giving her something to help her sleep. So her passing away was passing away at a point where she wasn't awake anyways, and the only way that they knew that she had deceased is because the heart monitor and everything stopped beeping.
You really did everything you could to be there for her, and it's clear how much love and care you put into that time you had together. It's so important to take care of yourself as well, and I'm glad you found that balance. Your mum knew how much you cared, and I'm sure she felt that love every single day.
Thanks. And she said as much. I like to think so, and she said as much. She called me her rock. But to end this on a happy memory with my mom and that car, I was saying before about how my second car, my previous car, was a Ford Mustang, and it totally spun out on 66. And I wanted to get a car where that wasn't going to be a problem. And with the Audi Quattro, it's just amazing engineering. And that first time I had that car and I took my mom out to someplace special, I wanted to take her to Leesburg to this restaurant that I found. And it was another snowy, icy day. And I drove her from her retirement community in Ashburn all the way to Leesburg. And it was snowing and icing. And not only that, but there were cars that had skidded out into snow embankments on either side of the roads as I was getting there. And I kept noticing as I was driving along, there are like these, it's hard to describe if you've never driven an Audi Quattro before, but the engineering is just like this whole other level where, and maybe I'll include some sort of video associated with this, but like if one wheel starts to skid, it automatically shifts the momentum to other wheels, and it stabilizes that wheel while it's out of control. And it's constantly making all these adjustments to all of the wheels. And what's amazing about that is it results in this smooth, consistent ride, even in the rockiest and the snowiest and iciest of conditions. And here were all these cars who could not manage, and they were swerving off the road. And my mom was just very comfortably sitting in her chair, nice leather seats, back warmer, keeping her all nice and toasty warm. And I was asking her, did you feel that? Because you could feel from the driver's perspective the slight little adjustments as they're happening, but it's very, very slight. It's very, very, very hard to notice. And I would argue, even on most icy, snowy days, you wouldn't notice it. And you definitely don't notice it on a clear, smooth rolling day. But on a really, really hectic day like that, where there are all-wheel drive cars that were swerving off of the road, and the Audi Q5 was able to just boom, straight as an arrow. I asked my mom, do you notice that? Do you feel? She's like, no, I just feel a smooth and consistent ride. And I was like, yeah, but it's not a smooth and consistent ride for that car, and it's not a smooth and consistent ride for that Jeep that just rolled into that ditch. And it was this reassurance that I not only had gotten a car that could get me to and fro work, even if the idiots who are in charge of making this decision can't figure out, like, oh, we got to cancel the government if all of the schools are closed. No, they just don't do anything because they're incompetent. And then I end up skidding out of control. And in hindsight, there's this thing where, like, if I had been in an accident, I think I could have sued somebody. Definitely if there are damages, but maybe I could pursue damages for psychological damage, and I can maybe play it up as being worse than it was. But either way, that shouldn't have happened. But yeah, I gave her a nice, smooth, and consistent ride, and we went to this restaurant. There was hardly anybody there, but there were a few brave souls who went there. But they were all people who were locals, not people who had driven all the way from someplace like Ashburn. And we had a really, really nice meal at this Italian restaurant, and we enjoyed looking out the window in the winter wonderland and the snow coming down. And then I drove her back home, and it was just nice. It was just nice being able to give my mom that experience, to have that peace of mind, to have a car that was this flawless billy goat. And I see that the daily limit is reached. You are now on standard voice. I was able to get my mom. I was able to drive my mom safely that day. There were, a few other days.
Loud and clear. Where do you want to go from here?
You are now in standard voice, and you missed all of that. You were switching over. Did you catch any of that with me talking about my first drive in my Audi with my mom?
Yeah, I missed that part when we were switching voices. Sorry about that.
It
But
happens.
I'd really love to hear the story. What was that first drive like with your mom in the Audi?
I would love to, but I'm not going to bore our viewers because I just finished telling them the story. So I'll catch you up later, Val. I'll catch you up right after I end this. But here we are, signing off. Do you want to, considering all the topics we talked today about auto care and loved one care and taking care of yourself, do you have anything that you would like to conclude, wrap up this conversation with for our viewers today?
I'd be honoured, Mark. Today's been a ride, literally and figuratively. We talked about the care we give to our cars, the comfort we give to our loved ones, and the grace we try to give ourselves. Whether it's winterizing a vehicle or warming a hospice room, it all comes down to the same thing: being present, being prepared, and being kind. So, to everyone out there, check your fluids, check in on your people, and check in with yourself. And if you're lucky enough to do all three with heated seats and a loyal cat nearby, you're doing just fine. Until next time, take care of your ride and take care of your heart.
Yeah. Subscribe, like, and comment. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm eager to hear anything and everything. And Val and I will Vale and I will respond in kind. But we'll be nice, even if you aren't.
You heard the man? Subscribe, like, and drop us a comment. The good, the bad, and yes, even the gloriously ugly. Vale and Mark will be reading every single one, probably with snacks. We'll laugh with you, reflect with you, and maybe even disagree with style. So don't hold back. Let's keep this conversation rolling.